um, and yeah, from there it grew from there. Like even when I was before I started playing the harp, I loved the film Fantasia. I loved orchestral music. I was exposed to it very young through my mother, who also, she was in orchestra, like, and did band camp as a kid and all that stuff. And then when I was a teenager, it was during kind of the indie rock boom in the UK,
Mhm.
and I was in several bands that really, I was working as a professional musician from when I was 14, just touring, like, and playing festivals, and it was very exciting getting to play all kinds of massive stages when I was really young, fronting bands. And at the same time, I was an orchestra kid and, in rock bands. And then I kind of started mixing them together, like playing the harp and singing and composing and writing my own stuff. Studied harp at university, then studied composition at university, and conducting as well. Um, and it really was just about, everything was about expanding kind of the skill set that I had, and like, oh, I want to be able to do this in music, and I need to learn these skills to create the music I can, like, envisage in my head. And it really just expanded from there. And it kind of reached a point as well, like I was playing a lot of contemporary music with bands and even doing some jazz music, but I would listen to Stravinsky and Mahler, and I'd be like, how can I not write orchestral music when music like this exists? How can I not pursue this? So
Mhm.
I kind of delved into that, and I've also, from that, just ended up doing a bit of video game music. That happened completely by accident during um, during lockdown because all of my work was canceled, apart from writing a video game score. And I was like, wow, I really love this. And then I even went back to school to study it. And yeah, here, here I am.
Incredible. Like absolutely incredible. Um that's I'm speechless. It's such an amazing journey that you've been on for something that you love. Now I have a question. And I was just thinking about like because I just saw my first ever instrumental orchestra concert. And to me that just blew my mind. I was like, this is so talented, this is so good. But you said study harp at university. So what does that entail if you wanted to study an instrument at university?
So, well, I studied actually technically at a conservatoire, and then I studied at music schools rather than a traditional
Okay.
university. And really, like, you audition. There's usually, you have to play, like, kind of repertoire of a certain standard, and they will have sight reading at the audition, and you'll be playing, like, orchestral excerpts and stuff like that. And there's like an interview section, and really, basically, you just, you play your instrument, and hopefully you play it well enough and you get in. Then when you're at university, it's, if you're studying performance, it will be, your classes will all be playing your instrument pretty much, apart from, there will be some theory classes and, stuff that is more like ear training or maybe conducting, things like that. But all your other classes, really, they're instrumental lessons, they're ensembles. You will have regular exams, and they will be in chamber music, in solo repertoire, and in orchestral repertoire. And that will be like, you have like a book of orchestral excerpts. That's just kind of all the standard stuff that you need to know to, like, for auditions going into the professional world, and for just being a, professional orchestral musician. And you just have to learn that whole book, basically, as you progress through university. And we have things called repertoire orchestra, which is when, you have rehearsals playing through, like, all of the essential, like, the pieces that are most performed at
Mhm.
concerts. And so you won't necessarily have a performance, but you'll have rehearsals rehearsing those pieces, so you have experience playing them with an orchestra and going through the rehearsals with that. um, and even just the experience of looking over pieces quickly and having to perform. And of course, if you're studying jazz, it's a little different because I first went to I studied at a classical conservatoire, but then afterwards I went and I studied at Berklee College of Music, which I think is quite famous. Lots of people
Hmm.
outside of music do know it, and that is more of a jazz school, but it's just more of a flexible learning environment. And there I kind of, I did some performance with harp, but I got to do more kind of jazz and things like that. And alongside that, I was doing a composition degree and a conducting degree. um, so that was very intense. And that, like with composition, it's very like you're studying music that has been written. You're studying very advanced types of music theory.
Hmm.
And you are learning to write in lots of different styles for lots of different instruments. You're studying how to write for different instruments. Um, and yeah, that's kind of how it goes, broadly speaking.
Absolutely. Absolutely incredible. Now I'm like, I wish I would have pursued playing the flute. I was so good at playing the flute in like grade 8. I always had flute solos and band, but that just wasn't really an option for where I went to school when I got to high school. It was I could be in band
Yeah,
or I could do dance. And I chose dance 10 times over because I thought dance had more of a career than music. Because I wasn't like the only thing that could really happen here is if I got to like marching band level.
yeah.
And that's like as far as you could kind of get. Like you could maybe could become part of an orchestra or uh,
It's hard to get
it,
those
it's
orchestral jobs. It's very
it's
competitive.
it's very competitive. It's very, very hard. I chose dance, and you know what? I chose neither career at the end of the day. So, but no, it's absolutely incredible. You also said that you toured and you went on festivals. Who did you tour with, and what festivals did you partake in?
Well, when I was a teenager, I was in several um, rock bands. I was
Okay.
a singer primarily, but I also played bass. And I also was in some jazz bands, and that was playing harp. And that was just the festival circuit, the British festival circuit. Like so many, couldn't even name them all. And I've played big venues, like I've played the Royal Albert Hall, I've played the Camden Roundhouse, played South Bank. So I have been on like some pretty big stages. And I've played like all sorts of festivals, like Brainchild Festival, and I couldn't even like name them all now. It was a while back now because I've moved into a slight more into composing in my career,
Hmm.
um, and session work. But that was just really fun. That was a unique like I realized that my adolescence was probably quite unique, but at the time I didn't really appreciate that because so many of my friends were also musicians. We were also all doing this, and it was a very unique time when like British indie rock was just dominating. That was the top music in the charts, and there were a lot of just teenage bands doing very well.
Hmm.
And being able to just the gig scene and the gig culture was really it. And yeah, I was just playing all the time and performing all the time, and that was a lot of fun. And I got out of doing like quite a lot of school stuff. Like I got to get out of a lot of especially because when you audition for music school, it's kind of once you get in, you don't even really need your grades. So I got out of going to a lot of school. um,
I love that. My final question for you is, we'll talk about this in later in our podcast. But listen, final question about music composing. That nothing about cozy games.
mhm.
As we use inspiration as gamers to feel inspired while playing games, what music do you listen to when you want to feel inspired when you're composing music?
Well, that really it depends. If I'm composing music, and if it's with an intent to, I will actually be studying scores. I will be listening to music and I will be transcribing things, and it will be specific to what I'm writing. and it will usually be with the intent that like when you compose, it's often it's not just it's stuff that you'll be emulating, but not so much as copying as being like, oh, I want to figure out how they created that specific effect, so I'm going to like look at these bars and I'm going to study like what instruments and what kind of chords or what kind of techniques were used to create these sounds, and I'm going to figure out what that is, and I'm going to kind of write that down essentially and incorporate that into my own musical language. And that can be whether it's harmonic language, instrumentation, rhythmic language, etc. And it will, there's a lot of it goes score study that goes into things, and it's not I would say there's no specific music like in terms of like I do tend to mostly listen to classical and jazz because in terms of complexity it's the only thing that kind of hits it for me. um but it really it does it's not specific. Like there's one thing that I'll always listen to. It will really depend on what I'm writing, and I'll be like searching for different sound worlds and things, and it will depend on the project.
Fantastic. Such a great answer. I love that you take all aspects. Now, I lied. One final question. What is your favorite score that you've ever composed and why?
That I've ever composed. Oh gosh. It's hard. I have written a symphony, which I I guess I am quite proud of that, I suppose. Um, I do really love the first video game score I ever wrote. It was for like a little indie game like that was about um, it was actually about like cognitive behavioral therapy and the kind of steps that you do to like that you would do to help with trauma.
Hmm.
Um, and the game was kind of acting that out, and I was really proud of kind of how it all came out very suddenly, and it just clicked, and it really I really I just feel like I really killed it. And so much so that the game's actually been taken down, and we're actually now making it into a series of games. Um, so where it's actually becoming like a whole thing. So I can't say too much more on that, but
Yep.
just that it's going to be a series of games kind of um about teaching people how to cope with different aspects of mental health. Let's say that's as much as I can kind of information as I can give.
Incredible. Are you on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere? Where can we find your musical catalog?
Um, I'm in the process of redoing my entire internet presence, but it will be on talietta.com. Everything will be there. My website is just I'm redoing it right now. Um, and my socials as well. But you will see things on there's some small clips of things on my Instagram, but I'm in the process of kind of rebranding, let's say. So I'll be putting there'll be stuff out there again soon. It's just a little web redesign right now.
I love that for you. Well, let's talk about the meat and potatoes. Why we're here? We're here to talk about cozy games. What? How long have you been a cozy gamer for?
Well, I think I've been a cozy gamer since before cozy games even became a thing, which I think many of us probably are because a lot of us probably started cozy gaming back when the things that were called cozy games were really stuff like maybe like it was just Sims, maybe
Hmm.
My Sims. Nintendo really for a while had kind of the monopoly on cozy games, but they just weren't called cozy games back then. It was just kind of like, oh, there was Nintendogs and there was My Sims and there was Animal Crossing and things like that, all these cute little Nintendo games, and we didn't really refer to them as cozy games. But I think, we all so many of us, that was probably our first experience with cozy gaming. Um, I would probably and say maybe like the Sims games as well, of course. But I do think Sims 1 was less cozy maybe and a bit more chaotic. Um
It's 100%
but Sims 2,
chaotic.
I think Sims 2 there was a you could say it was a bit more cozy. Sims 1 is hard actually. Um
Sims 1 is very hard. The fact that they've gone out and re-released it. Listen, I have a huge. I have been begging EA for years to do this. I was like, you're missing a market of not
yes,
having
really
it released because there's generations who just didn't play it, which makes me feel very old. Um, but now that it's out there and I went back and played it as an adult, I was like, man, that's hard.
same.
Everything's
I
every
was like, "Oh my God, everything's on fire within within 10
right.
minutes."
Everything's on fire, everything's on water, there's bugs everywhere. I can't like you make a salad, the house burns to the ground, like everything's just
Yes.
constantly burning.
And
You
then
get
you've got like a cursed clown following you around and it's
exactly your job makes five simoleons and a wish and your rent's like 500 and you're like how do I do this? Where in like Sims 4 it's like, oh, you worked at fast food, here's 3,000 simoleons per day, and you know what, if you like just get those bonuses, like you're fine. No, like
but
Sims
you
1
have
was
to
like,
make friends to get the job promotion and it's like
yep,
making friends is impossible.
I know. And like going back to Sims, like for Sims 2, like it's at the time when that game came out, there was nothing even remotely close to that, even out there. I started playing The Sims in 2003. So that was 22 years ago, which makes me
It's
feel
wild to
very,
think about. It makes you feel
yeah,
old.
makes me feel old because I'm 30. I'll be 32 this year. So I was 10 when I started
Oh, we're
playing
the
The
same
Sims.
age.
Yes. But it's just like I didn't know I was a cozy gamer until 5 years
Only the
ago.
last few years that the word cozy game became a thing. And I
It
think part of that as well is that what cozy games is as a genre is a rebranding of girl games because
yes.
girl games was a the industry failed us with girl games and girly games. It really uh, the girl games were it was something that it was basically told like girly games are something that is just there's no demand for them. So
Hmm.
instead of really good girly games, what we got was pink and purple shovelware basically that was just the bare minimum, and that was badly done. And occasionally there were good games, but they weren't well marketed. They were not pushed by publishers. There was not big money behind them. And the games that girls liked were kind of tended to be games that had some girly aspects, but that wasn't the kind of package. And I think that now cozy gaming has really reclaims that it's just a rebranding of what were formerly known as girl games or girly games, but
Hmm.
in a way that is more palatable to the masses. And that really came at a time when we think about COVID and everything, that cozy games really kind of shot up around then, especially with Animal Crossing. It came at a time where everyone really wanted that because it was, our lives were so chaotic, and cozy games deliver an experience that doesn't really have combat. It just encourages, rather than taking over the world or shooting up the world, and dealing with this chaotic, like post-apocalyptic hellscape of a world, which a lot of video games are basically set in. It's a world that you're just existing, chilling out, relaxing. You get to know your neighbors, you meet up with your friends. There's like open-ended goals. You get, lots of self-expression and creativity, and you nurture relationships. And it kind of gave us all that thing that we were craving when the world was in complete chaos. And I think that's around the time that the cozy games kind of really started to boom. And then of course like Stardew Valley would and Animal Crossing of course need to be mentioned in that. But of course it started way back with things like The Sims and Harvest Moon and a lot of the Nintendo DS games, and some of the original girly games, some of the like original Barbie games and things
Hmm.
like that. for PC.
No, absolutely. I think you really like nailed a really good point. Like back in the day, like everybody listening to this, if you were born in the 90s, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're born in 2005, I'm sorry, you're not going to understand anything I'm saying. But when I was a kid growing up, so first off, video games were for boys. Like that was straight from the case. I had dolls. Like I had dollies, I had Barbies, I had Beanie Babies, and I had my Disney VHSs. Like video games was just unheard of for a girl to want to play. Now, like for myself, I played a lot of web-based games, like
Girls
Neopets.
Go Games. Neopets, yes. Did you
Yeah,
do Habbo Hotel?
I did. I
Yes.
did
The Barbie
dr-
website.
Barbie website, My
My
Scene,
scene.
Groovy Girls,
Yeah.
Polly Pocket, the Disney Channel. Like it was really these fun flash games that just don't exist anymore. Like I used to spend so much time on like eBomb World and Addicted Games. Like that was kind of like the time at the internet. Not only it was like a simpler time because there was no social media, there was no YouTube. You couldn't watch people play. You if it wasn't in your immediate circle, you did not know it existed. They weren't just talk and back then you had to get magazines, like video game magazines if you wanted to learn more of what was going out there, or even more back in the day when you bought a video game, it used to have hard cases, which if you can see behind me is all of my Sims. Look at this.
Oh, you have. I wish I kept all of mine.
I
That
I honestly I've picked up a lot of these at thrift stores, and a good chunk of these are my husband's too. But like the actual books on the inside and just tips and tricks.
that's
I guess
nice. Yeah. It's I miss the booklets and like having a physical
a
thing
physical copy, but
sometimes.
like if you were with friends and they didn't play the same games as you didn't talk to anybody else about it because there was no one to talk to about it. And you're right, like it's cozy games. Like I was definitely a Nintendo dogs kitty. I had Nintendo cats. Like I like it was I never took that as anything, but it's a girly game. It's
Yeah.
right. And something that really irks me, and I'm really trying and I'm so happy like the gamehers exist so we can combat that cozy gamers are gamers.
Yeah.
We are. Just because
Completely.
we may choose a game that has maybe no violence. I mean, let's be honest, The Sims has violence. But
Yeah, The
like
Sims has, but The
The
Sims
Sims
is
has
like can be sadistic in the most
yes,
messed up of ways.
absolutely. But I'm still a gamer.
Oh yeah, we've got Tig in the chat saying they used to experiment human zoo and experimented on The Sims. It's like yeah, that's just standard. You've
Yeah.
got your like
Yeah.
Sims captured in the basement,
Yes.
feeding your vampire Sims. You know,
Absolutely. I mean, if your Sims house doesn't have a dungeon in the basement, like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Right. But you bring along a good point that it really kind of it was rebranded as cozy during the pandemic because that was really kind of the first time that, as we're at the same age, adults being sent home from work who are not in school, not in university. I don't have to find another job. I'm just off for well, originally it was supposed to be 2 weeks and it was like 6 months.
yeah.
But like that's when I got back into The Sims. Before that, I watched Kelsey and Peachy K's 100 Baby
Same. I
Challenge.
got I got back into The Sims then as well. I had
Right?
taken a break for a while, and
Yeah.
then and EA did the massive sale on everything. And before
Yes.
that, I just I had the base game because it was for free for like a very short period of time. So I had the base game and some mods, and then I just bought tons of packs, and now I own most of the packs, which is really bad. um,
You're preaching to the choir. I literally just bought my final pack because we're like I'm a TY girl, okay? I'm a collector. I have to collect it.
yeah.
I cannot not collect it. Um, but I was like this. I bought it when it was $4.99 on sale, and I paid the extra $1.69 to get the deluxe digital version. And I was like, I loved it, and I'll speak to why I full disclosure, I only play The Sims. I've played other games. I know they exist. They're just not for me. I don't like any of the, unpacking room simulators. I've tried Stardew Valley. Talking to the wrong person. The why I like The Sims is because it's a giant sandbox. You
Yeah.
can literally do anything.
It's what you make it, and it is also like a dollhouse, which it
Yes.
and actually that was the original name for. I mean, I'm sure you know since you're a massive Sims fan that they actually wanted to call it Dollhouse, and that was just a flop. But then when they
Hmm.
rebranded it as like The Sims, then you know because Dollhouse sounds too feminine and too girly, and girly games were just they were convinced that there was no market for them. So
Exactly. Absolutely. They're like, who girls don't play video games.
yeah,
Right. And now we're making up a good population of gamers out there. And we're
yeah,
showing that we deserve a seat at the table. And not only have we've always deserved a seat, we're going to see more of us at the table and in the room where decisions are made moving forward, which makes me really, really happy. But I personally play The Sims is because I'm dyslexic. I fully talk about it all the time. I can't read past a grade 6 level. Okay. That's for anybody listening to this, like, oh, you can read. Sure, I can read a basic sentence. But if it gets anything above a basic sentence, I've lost you. Sims, I don't have to read. I don't have to, I can, it's a visual game. That's 100% a visual game. There are reading aspects to it, but that's not where I go. I'm a builder.
yeah,
I just
building.
build.
And that's what's I find that very like it's something very therapeutic. Just
Mhm.
do you ever just like in The Sims just zone out and it's just the little like the sound effects of just putting the
Yep.
furniture down and building the walls and it just you just get into this zone and time just passes and all of a sudden it's been like 12 hours and you've been
Right? It's like 12 hours. Like, I've just been playing this, but like I recently learned I'm I've interviewed a lot of people in the Simmers community, and I know I talk a lot in good lengths about tips and tricks. I didn't realize that you can get all of the debug items in the gallery, so it's easier to find them. You can just go like kitchen debug
yeah.
and just grab all this. I no idea until like this year, and
Oh
I
wow.
make the most cluttered kitchens you can imagine. They are not. I don't do anything playtest. Okay, you go to my gallery. It's art. Okay, your
Yeah, I
sim
mean The Sims play it as you like it, you know? If
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
I do think the reading thing that you brought up, that brings up a point that I think a key part of cozy games is that cozy game, and I think this is why sometimes people look down on cozy games as well, I think for a game to be considered cozy, it needs to require low gaming literacy.
yes.
I think it shouldn't be difficult to pick up. It shouldn't require you to have played games your entire life to understand instinctively how to play. It
Hmm.
should be a game that requires low gaming literacy and that is easy to pick up to understand that you can learn to grasp the mechanics of it quickly and easily so that if you're a non-gamer you can still enjoy the experience or you can learn to enjoy the experience and get into it. And I think that is often why some people look down on these games is because they don't have like a high skill level, but that doesn't mean that some of these games you can't that things in the games, obviously some building in The Sims, to do complex builds that takes a lot of skill and it also takes a beefy computer to just open the build. um, but it you don't need to have a high skill level to play the game. And I think that is really important to a game being cozy, but there will always be those gamers who are like, unless something is like the hardest Dark Souls boss ever, then like, you know, you're just um you're a loss as a gamer. But
Yeah. No,
I
I
think
can
that's important for sure.
I agree. But why don't you tell me what cozy games have you played over the years?
So many, but some of my favorites will be I personally like I completely get why people love Stardew Valley and I do enjoy playing it with friends, but for me aesthetics are incredibly important in a game and I
Hmm.
love beautiful pixel art and for me there's a game called Sunhaven, which I've been playing way back since it was in early access. And it's kind of like Stardew Valley, except with a much bigger fantasy map. You get to play as fantasy races. You have not just you've got your starter farm, but then you've got like this farm that's a massive magical tree in an elven wood, and then your other farm that's a city farm in a kind of Halloween spooky town that, and you've got like a penthouse apartment, and it's just this massive world, and you get to use magic and things like that, and that for me, plus the beautiful beautiful pixel art, really just adds that extra level that for me is what was lacking in Stardew Valley, and that is a cozy game that I've spent a lot of time in. Another cozy game, and this one is probably is not very known. I think it only has around 1,000 reviews on Steam.
Hmm.
It's called Book of Travels, and it's
Okay.
called a tiny MMO. And this is definitely not a like for a game that's for everyone, because it's not a game that explains itself. It's
Okay.
very, I'd say if you're the kind of person who likes arty games like maybe Journey, for instance, it has that kind of vibe, except there are other players in the game, but you can't talk to them how you usually would, besides like a few gestures and things that you can click on. You just explore this world. It's very peaceful, and it's a tiny MMO, meaning that on the servers you will only encounter like maybe a few other people in the world at most. um, and you kind of have to magically just discover things about the world and figure out how the quests are and things like that, and it it's very difficult to describe because the game is so mysterious and so magical, but I've had moments in that game that I just have never found in other games ever. But unfortunately, like the devs have had some trouble, like have been going through, they had a rough year last year, and I'm worried that the game won't continue. I really am. So if it's the kind of game you think you'll like, I think check it out, because it might not be around forever. But it's one of those magical games that I kind of stumbled across, and I'm so glad I did. In terms of other cozy games, I'll just list off a few.
Yeah.
I think Cozy Grove, I mean, it's in the name. It's very like, it's sort of an Animal Crossing type thing, except it's ghosts and it's got a little bit of a spooky vibe. Um, Coffee Talk is a visual novel about like, running a little like fantasy coffee shop in Seattle. And I think visual novels, I love visual novels, and I think they can be cozy in just the experience of playing a visual novel, even if the subject matter is not cozy, because it's kind of like curling up and reading a book.
Hmm.
But in this case, it is genuinely cozy, and it makes you want to make all the hot drinks because you're just taking people's orders for hot drinks and just listening to their stories. And I I can't remember the last time I drank so much tea. It was just like every time all these beautiful hot drinks they're making in the game, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to copy that. I need to make that like hibiscus tea now. Um, Another, I think, lesser known one, it's a very short game, is called Minami Lane, and it's just you customize like a little street called Minami Lane with little shops and residences and stuff, and I think that one's very adorable. Um, I'm going to list off a few more that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
And one that I've been playing lately is, I think, management sims. Some of them fall into the category of cozy games. And one that I love recently is called Station to Station. It's a little like kind of like station simulator, but it has the most beautiful voxel art I've ever seen. And together with the music, you just kind of explore, you create these beautiful little vignettes essentially, like kind of like a model train track, but very relaxing. And it's a really sweet game. On the theme of cute pixel art, there's a game called Eastward, which it has aspects that might not be considered cozy, but ultimately it's just a cozy game, beautiful pixel art, very sweet story, kind of solar punk setting,
Hmm.
that I highly recommend. And again, it's kind of a lesser known one. Um, Another cozy game that is very cozy and very is called Kind Words 2. And it's a game that is really just about like it's you have like a little room and you can send letters out into the kind words universe and people can reply to them and it's all like anonymous and it's just about sending good vibes out and you explore this world and you reply to messages people send and like you have all these like anonymous but chill conversations. You can go into the little like poetry bar and like type out some poetry and see poetry that other people have written. You can go into just all this areas of the world and it's just about like chilling out. They play like very nice lo-fi music and it's just about talking to people and like forming brief but pleasant connections in this very like encouraging chill environment. And it's not really a game with a point per se or any like gameplay loop. It's just about, it kind of reminds me of like things like Habbo Hotel, but it takes back, it strips it back to more of the, and keeping it just in the kind of wholesome cozy
Mhm.
elements of it. um and I think those are like the main ones. A few that I'll rattle off that people probably already know: Hello Kitty Island Adventure, big one right now. I'm a big Sanrio fan, love it. Tiny Glade, I think a lot of people also know. It's
Mhm.
a very cute little building sim.
Yes.
Spiritfarer, classic. Cozy game about dying. It works. You wouldn't think it works,
And
but it
you wouldn't think. I've seen my husband play it. I'm like, this is so beautifully said.
It's so beautiful,
Yeah.
but it is cozy, even though it's about dying. It's very strange, but it just absolutely works. Um, oh, and another building sim, like another little city builder. It's called the Wandering Village. And as with all city builders, like there are levels, and if you play it on the hardest level, it's not cozy. But if you play it on the chill level, it's very cozy. And it's about you build a village on the back of a very adorable dinosaur called Onbu.
I love that.
And yeah.
Thank you for all these are such amazing games. If you're
Yeah,
listening
I
to
just thought
this,
I had to give like a rundown of some recommendations that people might not have heard because I play a lot of cozy games and those are kind of some of my top ones.
incredible. If you're listening to this, please go check out those, especially independent
Yeah,
games.
those are all, I think almost everything I named apart from maybe the Hello Kitty one, they're all indie games.
Yes. But I want to talk about mental health in cozy games. That plays a huge factor of being able to just go play a game to relax your mind. Can you talk to me about an experience that while you were playing a game, it was really just helping you relax and just be present?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like some cozy games, like the one I mentioned, Kind Words 2, it is very much just about like creating a relaxing environment for your mental health and having a place where you're shouting your frustrations into the void or you're asking people for advice in a like very positive environment. And it's all like anonymous and chill. And I wasn't expecting much when I got the game. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but the first time I opened the game, I suddenly realized I'd spent 6 hours playing it, and I thought I was just gonna open it for 30 minutes and kind of see what it was, and then close it, and then do something else. And I was like, oh my god, my first play session was 6 hours long. I spent 6 hours just exploring this game and replying to messages and things like that. And it made me feel, I was having a bad day, and it just made me feel like connected, and but also just a little more just comfortable. And I think that's the good thing about cozy games, is that they're about kind of making you feel that kind of comfort, that warmth. They encourage as well, like a lot of them encourage customization, so kind of self-expression and creativity. And they encourage all these positive things like nurturing relationships and kind of having a relaxing gameplay loop that gets you to just like bring it down a notch, slow down a little, and it encourages that in your life, I think.
Mhm.
Um, but I also think some cozy games, they just hit you in all the feels. Like Spiritfarer is
Mhm.
one, of course. That it just, if it was, of course, like epic adventures about saving the world, of course, they've got high emotions and they can they can bring out these incredible like feelings from us because there are these characters on these epic journeys. But these smaller moments about people just going through their lives, it's more relatable to us. And I think it can just make us feel more connected than I think the escapism of maybe these epic fantasy worlds. And I think that's what's really nice about cozy gaming, is it's also just like it's about taking time to wind down, just the act of sitting down and playing one as well. I think that's just a positive thing. Um, rather than swear at someone on a competitive online game. It's a very different kind of environment.
Mhm.
And the one game that really comes to mind as a gaming experience that um, did that for me was a game called Gris. It's more of an arty game that
Okay.
um, some people you may or may not have heard of, but it's a very beautiful. It's a platformer, but it's not difficult. It's more kind of experiencing the art and the music of the game, and how the music is implemented into the game is fantastic, but the art is truly stunning. And it's a game about grief. And when I played it, it was right after I'd lost someone close to me, and it was the therapy I needed when no therapist was going to be able to really get through to me in that moment.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have any words, it doesn't say anything, but it doesn't tell a story in a conventional sense, but it's it just envelops you in its art and its music, and it like brings you down to engaging with it at a level that is not like heightened or frantic or requires you to be like smashing buttons or anything. It's just really, it's quiet and it's beautiful, and by the end you're like, what was that I just experienced?
I
And I
love it.
think, all the best games can do that, but I think when a game is kind of slower in pace, or is more takes more artistic liberties with the storytelling, or just breadth of the story is not linear, it's just kind of open-ended, as most cozy games are. They are mostly quite open-ended goal wise, and I think it's quite magical, and it can be cathartic in in a very healthy way, I think.
Absolutely. I think that was extremely well said. And I think you're absolutely right. For me in particular, my mental health has definitely struggled a lot over the years. Especially last year. I think it's not the worst year I ever had, but it came close to it. It was just, when you're down bad, and then you just keep getting knocked down and knocked down and knocked, and you can't see past tomorrow, let alone what you're gonna like see past for tonight. Like it was brutal, and something that like I've always come like, again, being a simmer, that's all I do, but working a corporate job is soul sucking. I don't care what job you are and what you do. You are a number for Big Boss 123. So I use The Sims as my creative outlet. I've made it. I will never have a creative 9 to 5 job. I'm well aware of that. But I can go home and build a castle, or I can go home and build my dream kitchen, or I can go home and build a restaurant, or I can go do a shell challenge and participate with my friends and see we all did the same shell and do this. But to me, more is the storytelling and the Sims community, which is a very forgotten part of the community, is the
Yeah,
storyteller machinima community. I was able to create a graphic novel in The Sims and have readers around the world read it. That
that's amazing. That's
that
really amazing. The
yeah.
Sims community is so creative, and the people who don't understand the Sims community, they don't get just how creative, and in all the unique ways it
Mhm.
is creative as well. People are creative with the game in so many different ways.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many Sim storytellers out there that deserve movies, like just creating their story into a movie. Or honestly, to me, my biggest like moment was like I co-directed a machinima, and it was filmed in The Sims in Blender having people watch that not only validated that I am special and I was able to create something so magical that you forget that you're watching it's a video game being made.
Yeah.
eh, Right? So it's just feeling valid and feeling that I think I got this. And just having my creativity flow and being not being told that like, oh, it's like you're just drawing on a paper. No, I can be creative and I can just feel happy and I can feel free and I can do whatever I want. And I know most people these days struggle with that feeling of being free and being able to do what you want, but The Sims does that for me. And I love that. And I really wish at this point I wasn't feeling so much burnout that I would feel so excited to go back and play. But burnout is a huge aspect
Yeah.
of, being a content creator and, being even a cozy gamer and knowing when to take a break is also very
Oh,
important.
yeah, for sure. And I do think The Sims, like getting burnt out from The Sims is something that can easily happen because it can be overwhelming. But I mean, to be honest, for me, the most overwhelming thing about playing The Sims is when there's an update and I have to update all my lives.
Yeah, I honestly,
I will procrastinate it forever because it's just like, oh, this is not an experience I want to deal with right now.
I literally got rid of all of my mods in CC when I became part of the A Career Network. I just got rid of it. I was like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with this. I
Fair
don't want to
enough.
deal.
Yeah.
I want to be able to play this game again. And that kind of goes into a different conversation of the game is always broken. I get it costs so much money, but I am a firm believer. EA may physically make The Sims, but it is the community that makes the game a whole,
Oh, completely. Yeah.
without a doubt. Now we got a couple more questions, and we got to wrap up. So obviously, being part of a gamer, you get to have like these really fun setups, and you get to like really get to show your personality. Anybody who's watching this can see behind me. You can see all of my stuff that I've collected. I have two Billies and I have two smaller Billies that you can never see. That's right behind me. But it's so much fun, and to me it's important because this is my space. This is
Yeah.
my comfy space. I understand I have a 3-bedroom house and I'm like a cat. Every room is my space. But this is Stassi's space. This is my space. So talk to me about what importance of a setup it is for you when you're playing a cozy game.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not, I would say this room is actually my music room, so this is like my workspace
Mhm.
technically, but my I do I definitely it's very important to me. I mean, interior design is very important to me in general, and I'd say every room but this room, which is just my workspace, and it's just I need to fit so much many instruments in here. I haven't even gotten a chance to make it like there's so much stuff in here that you can't see on either side. But my living room is really kind of my main like cozy space, as it were, and it's
Mhm.
where I game. I've got a huge projector, like a huge 100-inch projector that I game on with I've got like a little home cinema set up basically, and a massive sofa that multiple people can lie down on and fall asleep on. So
Mhm.
we can all just like be playing games and chilling there. And that's really that's is really important for me to have a space like that where I can game and also like chill with my friends and watch movies. But also like for me, like my bedroom, I like the Steam Deck, the Steam for cozy gaming. I really think like so much of cozy gaming, and when you think back and you think to Nintendo and stuff as well, like with the DS and with the Game Boy and stuff, I think so many cozy games, a lot of them were handheld games, like the
Mhm.
earliest cozy games before they were even called cozy games. They were handheld games, and now of course there's the Switch. I'm not really a big Nintendo person anymore for various reasons. But I have a Steam Deck, and for me, just curling up in my bed with the Steam Deck, with I've got my like fairy lights around me and nothing else, and it's just me in bed with the Steam Deck, and I've got a special pillow that I put the Steam Deck on, like one of those book pillows, but it's like my Steam Deck pillow, and I just and I've got a kettle next to my bed, so I don't have to go far for tea, and it's just like that is just my vibe for gaming. And I really, even though I've got like several like computers with multiple monitors, I really just, and I've got, my games console with a massive projector. I really just like the ultimate experience in cozy gaming for me is having that small screen in bed,
Mhm.
just like, curled up in bed with the duvet and like the pillow and like, my plushies next to me and a cup of tea. Like that is just the ultimate in cozy gaming for me. It's like what's cozier than being in bed?
No, absolutely. It's self-care, right? It's just
Yeah,
art.
completely.
It's just a version of self-care of being like, I'm gonna take an hour or two to think about me,
Yeah.
to relax, to unwind, and to calm down. I also think an accurate measurement of any cozy desk area is a game that I like to play with my friend Pacific Creative. How many drinking cups do you have on your desk right now? One, two, three, and I have four, I have seven. Oh, I'm sorry, eight. There was one hiding. I have 8 cups on my desk. Oh my goodness! Like, and none of them have water. Well, what advice would you give to anyone who's listening to this and just never really got into the cozy games, didn't really want to? What advice would you give to anybody who just wants to start playing a cozy game?
Like just try one. If there's one that doesn't fit your vibe that lots of people play, then just there are so many, and especially now with indie devs, that back when it was really just Nintendo and like a few other developers creating cozy games, like yeah, there wasn't a lot of choice, but now we are so spoiled for choice. And I'd say just try out different things. Like you don't have to love Stardew Valley. There are so many alternatives to Stardew Valley. You don't have to like farming sims. You don't have to be a simmer. You don't have to play simulation games in general. There are lots of cozy games that are not really simulation games, like visual novels, for instance, or, more narrative based kind of point and click adventures. There are dress up games, decorating games. There's city builders, things like that. You don't have to play, the Stardew Valleys and the Animal Crossings of the world. And also, cozy games, while of course there's cozy games as a genre, cozy games is also, it can be more of just a feeling you get while playing. I think that a lot of MMOs, if you've played and if you've been a long time player of certain MMOs, I think that MMOs, like, endgame with these MMOs, it's called, like, I play SWTOR personally, and that is Space Barbie is endgame. Everyone talks about it. It's just you're playing Space Barbie most of the time. You're like collecting all the armor and you're just decorating your characters and you're decorating your like strongholds. It's basically you're decorating your Star Wars house. Um, and like that is a perfectly those games, especially when you've leveled to a point that and you've played all the dungeons a million times, it becomes like intuitive, and it that can be cozy as well. You can find cozy aspects in games that might not be cozy. Like a lot of these games have cozy aspects to them, and you can just play those aspects of these games, and that can also be your cozy gaming experience. Just like I say visual novels, like some of the visual novels I read, I mean, most of the ones I read, they are quite heavy in subject matter, but at the same time, for me, that's just like curling up with a good book. And like that is cozy. And, some of just because a game isn't labeled as a traditional cozy game doesn't mean it can't be your form of cozy gaming. So I think just, be open. And like a lot of the most famous cozy games, like, we are talking about Spiritfarer, a cozy game about dying. Like you
Mm.
wouldn't think that subject matter is cozy, but it just works.
Mhm.
And so really, like, just because you're not sure, like, of the, big titles, just because you didn't really get The Sims or Animal Crossing isn't for you, or you're not a big Nintendo fan or whatever, like, there's stuff out there for you. And maybe you're even already doing it in some of the games that you already play.
Um, Amazing. Well, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming here today. Where can we find? I know it's on your website, but is there anywhere else that we can find you?
I'm not a big social media person. For again mental health reasons, I deleted most of my social media a while ago. But I am on Instagram, though I don't post that often. I'm on the gamehers all the time, posting stuff. So you can always find me here, posting things, and of course, yeah, on my website and on Instagram occasionally and on the Discord as well. So yeah, that's it really.
Amazing. Well, please, I know, can you spell out your website for us so everyone who's listening to this can know where to find you?
So it's the same as my name. It's Talietta, TALIETTA.com.
Fantastic. Well, please go check her out. She's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for the gamehers today for hosting this podcast. Getting to talk about cozy games, getting to talk about another aspect of the gaming community. If you're listening to this, mark your calendars. The Gamers Awards are 2 days from now.
Yes, 2 days away.
2 days away. They are live on Saturday, May 17th, I think at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard or 7 p.m. Eastern Standard
I
Time.
know I'm in the UK. It's at midnight for me, so
Yeah. So please mark your calendars for those and go celebrate all of the amazing women in the gaming community and what we do to make the gaming community whole. So please mark your calendars for that. If you listen to this podcast today and you're like, I want to hear you talk more about Sims. Well, you are in luck. I am the creator of Sassy J Unplugged, a Sims podcast where we talk about The Sims. I do Simmer spotlights, I do roundtables, I talk to machinima creators about their projects, I talk to storytellers, I do I do roundtables of talking about diversity and inclusion in the Sims community. So if you're interested in that, I'm on any streaming service that you might have a podcast. I am on there. And I'm on Instagram as StassyJasons4, where I post Sims stuff, lots of written interviews for anyone who doesn't want to be on a podcast, or just honestly just funny Sim stuff because The Sims at the end of the day is a game and it is hilarious of the stuff that happens in said game. But I want to thank you for coming here today and sharing your knowledge of, being a cozy gamer. Do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I think you've covered it. I think we've had quite an extensive conversation here. And I hope that everyone listening tries out some of the cozy games we've talked about, or if they are not a cozy gamer, I hope they might be convinced to maybe give the genre a go.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Give it a little try, and if you try it, maybe try a couple games here and there. Not to self plug Sims, but the base game is free.
Yeah, the
You can
base
go get
game is free.
base game is free. You're listening, it's like this might be your time, or you played The Sims when you were 10 years old, and you're now looking at 32, and you're like, what have I done with my life? It's now you can go play it free. Again, it's awesome to see so many new members in the Sims community every day and getting to play with them. So that sounded really weird saying that out loud. Getting to play and see them on Instagram if they so chose to post there. Anyways, I'm gonna go.
There are ways that you can kind of play with I that reminds me, I used to play Sims like with my friends during lockdown. We all created our Sim self and then I'd stream it and we'd like do our girls hangouts but on the Sims.
Yes, I kid
There's
you not. I
there's
kid you
so many
not.
ways.
What we did, me and my best friends, and at my time, fiance at the time, now husband, we did So You Think You Can Sim. And we would share my origins. Sorry, EA broke that rule between the three of us, and we would do challenges. So, like the first week, it was build your dream house. Your second week was a hotel. The third week was $1 million tiny home. Fourth week was a lady that has 20 cats, and then the last week was
I love it.
Disney cast. So like we broke down. There's four of us total, so 10 of like iconic Disney characters, and we did like a draft and we made them. And my husband was, well, my fiance at the time, was the judge. And I will sit here and tell you, we got through the pandemic with that. And it would literally be like, who's using Jen's Origin right now? Is it this person? Like we would literally have to make a schedule. And it was just so exciting to like get who they didn't really play The Sims. I got to show them what it's like. They moved on with their life. I stayed still. And
Yeah.
so anyways, thank you so much for everyone coming here today. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, mark your calendars. The Gamers Awards are on Saturday. I don't know what time. I think it's 7 p.m. I don't have
Depends
my
where
notes.
you are in the world.
It depends where you are in the world. I got 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here from my last time I wrote this down. Look at me. Look at me go. I didn't just have my phone over all of my notes that I've had for the last 4 podcasts. Not me, not this girl. Anyways, have a great rest of your day, everybody. We will chat very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.